Good evening, everyone, and we are live finally. 3 minutes later than expected. We were just waiting for Sean and some of his technical difficulties, so you'll have to excuse the moron there that has made this happen with us tonight. But he had other priorities. I believe Love Island is hot in everybody's mind when actually you should be here listening and enjoying the morons. But thank you very much for joining us, those that have, and to use for morons. This is essentially my birthday party, so welcome in. I hope you're all well.
Actually, how long was it going to take for you to mention it was your birthday?
I know. I thought you'd have a bit of decorum and wait for one of us to mention it, like a normal person.
Nah, you guys, I know you guys too well, and you are horrible human beings, so I would not expect you to partake in any niceness. But guys, thanks for joining.
I'm going to pick your cake and bin then.
some virtual cake for me. I've got my cans of tenants, as you'd be shocked to hear. That'll keep me going for the night anyway. How's everybody doing though?
Fantastic.
All good.
Don't know. Are you all watching Love Island in the background here?
No, I need full
I've
concentration.
on in the background. I'm waiting till Laurie gets in to watch it, so I'm taking it.
Oh Jesus Christ! Tatum, how old are you?
It's not 90 times.
I'll get a couple bill on Wednesday once the two games are finished.
Have you got a long play, Sean?
That's right. 6 hours long play. Oh god.
Oh, did it. Anyway, guys, back on track. So this week we are on Sports Week. We obviously spun the wheel and landed on Sports Week. Daniel, give us a quick rundown about how the Instagram voting for these movies went, because there was other ones that you wanted that didn't make the cut.
I was desperate for White Men Can't Jump to be in this. It's one of my favourite ever films, never mind sports films, but it got beat at the last hurdle. But we did 16 movies for this one, and we've done that again this week, so we've expanded it a little bit, and there was some quite shocking results for some of them. The Member of the Titans, I thought, had a really good chance as well, and that was the final 4, but we ended up with Moneyball and The Fighter. A few, like Warrior went out early. I was quite
shocking.
Shocked at.
One of my favourite movies as well. Well, listen, I do.
At one point, the Ducks.
We will need to be discussing the movies that came down to the final ones this week, as apparently there was some shenanigans that happened throughout the week within the morons that may have influenced a vote or two. I mean,
no happy.
I don't know who's to blame for that, to be honest, but I think we should just get started off like we did last time, and we will talk about our leaderboard, as there was some movement and some changes in it previously. So I'm just going to put the leaderboard on screen at the moment. As you can see at the top, we still have Parasite coming in strong with a 4.65. 7 has then jumped up into second place, moving Shawshank down to third, and The Wolf of Wall Street out of the top 3, and rightly so. Fight Club jumped in there at number 5, so we had 2 movies enter our top 5 from last week. Go in further down the list, you'll see, where else did we have? Uncut Gems came in at a number 10 with a strong 3.65. Milk entered at number 12. Well, joint 11th with Birdman. I'm probably going to miss some movies that we did review last week as I go down the list. The Five Bloods came in at a really low score. That's in at number 30. I can't remember all the ones that we actually reviewed to see where they've went on here, but you can
there was only 4.
Have I missed one more?
There was only one other.
Let me see if I can see it first. You're going to have to tell me.
You think one of us would remember between us, but I wasn't there. Can't remember.
Yeah, Sean took one of his regular sabbaticals that Sean takes from the morons. I can't find it, guys, but feel free to go back and watch last week's episode. It is also available on YouTube. The YouTube information is just at the bottom there as well. You can go back and rewatch that and find out what that elusive last movie is that we cannot remember. But we are here to talk about the movies that were selected as sport. So I think a really good place is to start off with Moneyball. So who'd like to start us off giving us their thoughts and opinions on Moneyball?
I'll go with that.
I was going to say, since this was one of the first films I watched, Bunzy, you should go first.
Well, Bunzy, before you jump back in, I keep forgetting to do this, but to give you the little rundown of what IMDb says the movie is about, it says the Oakland A's general manager Billy Bean's successful attempt to assemble a baseball team on a lean budget by employing computer-generated analysis to acquire new players. That sounds incredibly boring. In that little statement. But Burnsy, take us away with your thoughts on one of the very few movies that you have watched prior to Movie Club.
So I think I watched this one maybe about 9 months ago. I think Daniel maybe recommended that when we were in lockdown. So my opinions didn't change that much for the first time that I watched it. It was enjoyable, and obviously because I was like enjoyed football and that, it was sort of similar in terms of the sort of way they were looking at baseball players and trying to improve their team and all that kind of stuff. But there was quite a lot of bits that, from reading after it as well, when we were getting the film reviewed after it, there was quite a few parts that were saying that weren't accurate on the film. Whereas what I thought is like obviously I had the general manager and then the person who got employed from, I can't remember what team he was at before, but the person who was under the name, the person that Jonah Hill was playing, when he got, it was as if he was just in charge of the full team. It was like this boy who was like a computer geek, essentially, figured out all these formulas based on this book. He got brought into the Oakland team, and then what was the guy's Bean? Was it Michael Bean, or have I just made that guy's name?
Billy Bean.
I'm making the Rangers assistant or whatever his name is. Billy Bean basically brought him in and then just followed everything he said to the letter. He was like, I signed him, he's good at this, he's good at that. Which I kind of thought, it just seemed really bizarre how you would just take this person's viewpoint and just follow it to the letter and hope everyone works out fine. And the other bit which I didn't really like about the film was when how they had the coach. And it was as if the coach was just, after being the coach, for instance, according to that film, because all he was doing was he was just picking the players he fancied, and then Brad Pitt comes in, tells the players all these things of what to do, how to make themselves better, and everyone just fell into place. It was like, what was the point in the coach actually being there? Because he was having the general manager in charge of the team. Whereas the bits that I read like briefly after it about the reception, and I can't remember what player, but one of the players was saying that the coach's name Art, it was as if portrayed by the film as if he was against all this stuff, and he was like, no, I'm doing this isn't going to work. Whereas I think it was one of the players that they'd signed, and he was making the point saying, no, the coach wasn't like that whatsoever. He was quite on board with everything, which the film made the coach just look stupid. But I thought like the flashbacks to Brad Pitt's life as a player, that was quite good. And the small bit that you did get of the family, where him and his ex-wife and his daughter, you learnt a bit more about his character. But it was enjoyable, but I just thought there was quite a lot of holes in it that didn't. It may have been based on how the story was, but from reading parts of it after it, it did seem as if the film wasn't really accurate to what actually happened with that Oakland team.
So you feel maybe not as believable?
I don't know if it was done for a particular reason or whether it was just.
Well, funnily enough, I was reading about this today. So Steve Soderbergh was supposed to be the director, and he wanted it to be like accurate, and to the point that he wanted the actual players to be in the movie instead of actors for the baseball players, but then have actors for the main parts. And he wanted it to be exactly as the story went, and got it to say, no, we want it to be a better film, essentially. So I think the actual story was too boring for them to make it into a movie.
I didn't know. I knew obviously that the main characters were obviously actors, but for all I knew is that they could have been actors, because I don't follow. I wouldn't be able to point a baseball player to you at all, and I didn't look to see who was actually playing the baseball players, because they weren't really involved in the storyline that much. You could have got away with them. Wasn't if you'd be able to think, oh, that person as an actor is horrendous. It was because they had really small parts. That makes a bit more sense as well.
No, I definitely. I think they would have got away with it if they went with actual players for the baseball players, because despite it being a film about baseball, they're not a big part of it in any way. Right? It's nothing to do with that, really. I'll just go. I'm talking anyway. The same thing for me in this one, right? I quite enjoyed it the first time. I recommended it for other people to watch. It's definitely not a second watch movie, is it? Like,
no.
I think once you've got the gist of what happens and what the formula is that they follow, like it's kind of that's it really.
So I didn't do much for me in a second go.
I was going to say this as well. It's like I think obviously we mentioned about I think Fight Club was one of the ones we watched last week, and I was sort of saying that it was something I need to go back and watch so that you pick up all the hidden parts in the film which lead you to that conclusion. Whereas obviously you don't pick anything up. There's nothing obviously missing first watch, and once you've, like Daniel says, once you've watched it once, it's not something really to go back and. Although it was enjoyable, it wasn't something that was worthy of a second watch.
Yeah, well, this for me is a very wholesome film where you can enjoy the success that these underdogs get. Like it's one of the ultimate underdog stories where, what was that? Just seeing a wee hand action come up there, I was like, well, that's caught my eye. But yeah, when it comes to being that underdog story, and it's about like these people that are just not classed as your attractive players that are going to pull you in crowds and sell you shirts, and there's a lot made about the picture. I think his name's Scott, that throws the ball funny, so it's like don't take him in because he's different. And I suppose if you're going down the cliche route, it's like that breaking the mold and being that little bit more unique and different. And there's a lot of teams that follow formulas like that now. You can imagine all the big wits like ripping up the rule book of like bringing in these superstars and going, like, let's go get all the people that nobody knows about or nobody cares about, and everybody try to steal their thunder on it. But I like Brad Pitt in this, I really do. I think he plays the character really, really well. I did a little bit of reading about it afterwards, and there's a lot of things that are missing from Billy Bean's life at that point, because Brad Pitt's portrayed as this depressed guy who's really sad after his divorce, just wants to see his kid, and he looks like he doesn't like or enjoy anything about his life. But in actual fact, when that was going on in real life, he'd actually remarried and was in quite a happy place in his life while she's going through this, which maybe isn't as dramatic as what is portrayed in the movie, but it was quite well done by him. And it's funny looking at Chris Pratt, the way that he is in the movie compared to who he is now. I just thought, was that the football score you were putting up there, Daniel?
Yeah.
Again, man.
I'm sure how they tell us by hand signals with the Love Island things were going on, so it must be the fifth.
I'm just waiting all the characters to walk back.
That's on a third recoupling, guys.
I'll spot. The Love Island story is that attractive people meet and then don't like each other. The end.
And then make careers on Instagram.
Aye.
Oh, don't. We'll talk. We can go for it.
Instagram. Oh, it's in there.
Yeah, we'll be the next group of people. That, anyway, Hunter, let's come across to you to get some of your thoughts on Moneyball, because I don't want your thoughts on Love Island.
That's a separate stream altogether. So my thoughts on this, again, similar to what Bumsy and Daniel have said, it isn't a great second watch movie. I enjoyed it the first time, again, because similar to what's been said before, like the whole analytics side, which is coming into many sports. Obviously, Brentford is the case in point for what you would call, they've called like the Moneyball team, because they use all this analytics and help bringing these players. But rather than keeping them and going on trying to win the league, or whatever. I suppose we're trying to win the championship, but rather than doing that, they're obviously just buying, developing, and then selling on for profit, and then rinse and repeat. So it was more, if it was a lot more factual, I would probably like, you know, that it's all based on this guy who worked in like a meat packing factory or whatever it was, who was nothing to do with baseball, just worked all this stuff out. And I think he then gets hired by the Red Sox at the end of the film. I would have loved to have seen a film about him, or he was just this normal guy who then developed this formula, which then has been copied and pasted by, I'd imagine, many a few teams since then. But as I said, Brad Pitt is good in it, Jonah Hill's good in it. But again, it's not a film, it's not going to pull up any trees, nothing really dramatic happens. But again, I suppose that's what you maybe come to expect with these dramatisations or maybe Hollywoodisations of these true life events, that when you add on these extra bells and whistles, it maybe takes away from some of the true magic of the story, which is just my inner sports geek wanting to know all that stuff rather than caring about how a guy is divorced.
Sarah's just popped into chat there saying, aye, okay, then that must be a reference to us five going to go and infiltrate the house in Love Island. And I don't know.
You couldn't make a active man between the 5 years.
That's harsh.
Harsh, but true. They just, not one of us could compensate for the bodies that they're probably rocking in these movies, in this show. Anyway, again, enough of this, but let's just talk more about the Moneyball. So again, I really enjoyed it, right? And I'm looking at what it was nominated for as well. I was actually quite shocked on some of it. Not shocked that Brad Pitt was nominated for a Best Actor, so Best Performer in a Leading Role from an Actor. Jonah Hill nominated for an Oscar in Best Support Actor in a Supporting Role. It was also nominated for Best Achievement in Sound Mixing. I can't really remember what drew me out about sound for it, to be honest. Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay, Best Achievement in Film Editing, and Best Motion Picture in 2012. Which, yeah, I think I'm quite shocked that it got so many nominations. I'm just, as I'm doing this, looking up to see what it beat for Best Motion Picture. What it lost to, sorry. And it lost to The Artist, which I've not seen, so I can't comment on. I think The Artist done pretty well that year. So, yeah, lots of good things on there. Sean, you want to give us some of your thoughts on Moneyball?
I'm actually very surprised that your reviews. I absolutely loved it, and like I've obviously only just finished it, but like I just really liked it.
Can we just take a minute to appreciate that Sean likes a film that doesn't have Leonardo DiCaprio in it?
The whole, obviously, I've not read anything about it afterwards because I never really had time, to be honest. But I was going anyway, and obviously going into it, like I know very little about baseball itself. Which I think helps as well. I didn't know how factual it was going to stick to the actual true events and stuff like that. But just for the whole kind of like the statistics and the ana, like I just love the idea, and I can imagine at the time that totally changed the game of baseball and stuff like that. And as I said, it's just like a copy and paste job more or less, as kind of noted when the Red Sox were trying to get him. I actually thought that he did go to the Red Sox because I did know that they won the first World Series in 2005. I only know that because he lost the TV show. That anyway, but I just thought that it was him that went, and it obviously turned out it wasn't. But no, I absolutely loved it. I thought Jonah Hill. I'm surprised that he was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor because I thought anybody could have done that role. I don't think he was that spectacular. He never really had that many lines, and when he did, like it was very kind of short and sweet. Like there wasn't really. I don't think he was that like. He never stood out. I thought Brad Pitt was absolutely brilliant. No, he was really good. And the wee scene when they're in the office trying to do the deals, and he's always shouting to his assistant, "Get so and so on the phone." I thought that was absolutely brilliant as well. I'm going to watch it for a second time, maybe like a few months or so, just because obviously you're saying it's not like that enjoyable on a second watch, but I really liked it. like really liked it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying there, because I've watched it multiple times, but it's become one of those movies that you can watch whilst doing something else, because you know what's going on in it, but it's a...
See, I was pure... sorry to cut you off, I was pure into it, like, I didn't want to... Like I didn't want to lose any kind of focus on it. I was like proper into it, and I've not felt like that for a film that we've watched in a good few weeks.
Oh, lucky you didn't have a football match on in the background.
Well, I missed the game of the tournament for it, so I'm quite glad that it turned out really well for the film. Otherwise, I would have absolutely fuming. No, I was totally drawn into it, and absolutely, I just really liked it.
I was just going, it's like, although I like the bit in the office when you're saying about doing all the deals and that as well, but like I said before, that was one of the bits that grated on me, was the fact that he was just basically asking an assistant what to do. Like, surely he should, he's the boy that's in charge, so surely he actually knows some stuff. It was as if he was like, I'll just follow, you just tell me what today, and he just followed along with it. Obviously believed in the policy that his assistant was doing. You think he would either have some detail himself and know what to do instead of being like, oh, I'll put you on hold, I'll ask this boy what to do and we'll just go with that and hope it works out.
But see, the thing is...
It wouldn't be a very good film, would it?
Sorry?
It wouldn't be a very good film. Like, see if like the office interaction was like just a boss being in charge and...
Oh, I meant more if it was more like both of them though. It was as if he was just following what his assistant said. That's what... Like, it would have worked better if there was maybe a wee bit of both of them understand. Maybe say there was more interaction between the both of them, and then maybe them. I don't know how they could do it, but say they were like saying, arguing about what players to go for, or something like that. Instead of just basically asking, it's like like I say, just a manager asking his assistant and saying, "What do I do?" And he says, "I do that." And he's like, "All right, cool, go with that."
I would bet that around the world in any kind of sporting game, that you'll get that kind of scenario quite a lot. You'll have a guy who's seen to be in charge, but he'll be surrounded by people who actually tell him what to do. He's basically that face. And I think
case in point, well, that would just be Boris Johnson. He didn't care what he's doing. He's just
example.
Is that an opinion though?
And this is a totally different level, but David Hopcock, when he got Livingston promoted, apparently his assistant, I don't know who it was, but apparently his assistant was the one who was basically like, he was the guy that made that difference for Livy to get promoted, and that's why Hopcock basically buggered off, his assistant left. Anyway, but I just think that it's Brad Pitt. The way that I seen it was that he was that scarred about losing out on the season before, and he's obviously the film kind of opened up with him going to the owner and asking for X amount of money to compete with these teams. He's basically desperate to get a team out that's going to be able to compete, and as it was pointed out many times through the film, even when they were on the 20-game winning run, where he was like, it means nothing because we could go out and lose next week, which they ended up doing. So that in theory they broke a record, but they never won the World Series or whatever the competition is. I think he was just that desperate to get a winning team out there within his budget that he's obviously found this guy. The only kind of thing that I would say about it, like when he met him in the office, when he went in and Jonah Hill was just standing at the side, all Jonah Hill done was whisper to one guy who whispered to the other guy sitting down, like, and then he walked straight up to his desk and was like, "Who are you?" Basically, like, I don't know how you can get that much from that interaction to think this guy's basically the brains behind it, or just because you whispered to one person. But
I think that's more based on the fact that the main guys changed his mind on what was going to happen because of this word, and I think that that's where you like it would be a bit boring to find out the background of it, but Brad Pitt's echoed that but like had that belief and trust, and they've probably had like obviously the behind the scene conversations about how they're going to do it. For me, what I liked about the way Brad Pitt's character was is how cutthroat and how direct he was, like, and it makes you think, imagine that being like the football world, where the football world is different because the footballers have so much more say in what happens with them and where they go than they do in America with things like baseball, because they just go into the dressing room and the locker room and say like, right, get your kit off, I've transferred you to Texas, you're going to piss off to Texas now, see you later. Yeah. And that's it, like it's dead brutal and there's no fight back on it, eh? They're just like, oh well, that's that you've decided that. Whereas now you've got players out there in football like Gareth Bale just sitting his money at Real Madrid and no move anywhere because he doesn't want to.
Or even if it's just like when it's actually work or that. Like if you just logged into your Morons in our company, see you later. That's basically just what they've done.
Yeah.
Obviously with their players.
And obviously it's no like
That happened in the ESL anyway. Once it got all Americanized, you just get folk making random trades in the middle of the season.
Oh God.
you'll have boys in who'll be getting traded halfway across the country and all that, like, which is obviously like a lifestyle change. Your family needs to move or might need to move and stuff like that. But no, but I just back in film, I really like. As I said, if I looked at which I'll probably will look at it tonight, just about how the story actually kind of unfolded in real life and stuff like that. But it was just a nice underdog story. Obviously, they never won in the end, but the actual formula and the plan did essentially work. They were bottom after how many games, and then they went and they broke the win record and all that. And obviously that game when they were 11-0, they were 11 runs up, and then obviously won it in the last with your man getting the home run at the end. I just thought it was really good. I just thought it was quite well done. But as I said, I have no idea how accurate it is to the actual true events. I've not read anything about it since I watched it.
So, and some of the trivia that I'm looking, just as you touched on about Hatterberg getting his home run. So according to the book, the bat that was used by Hatterberg in the walk-off homer was made by a company that he did not have a deal with. He wasn't supposed to be batting in that game, so he had to borrow the bat from a teammate, grabbed it on his way onto the pitch, and he later got fined because he used the wrong brand of bat. So he goes out, hits a big home run and gets fined for it because it's not got the right branding on it. Jesus Christ, eh?
Hartbreg was the one as well, I remember. Hartbreg was the one, going back to what I said before about how he was one of the ones that came out and said that the coach wasn't against him at all, because that was about the first. He was the one at first base, wasn't it? He came out after it and said, "Well, that didn't give a true the film didn't give a true representation of the coach at all. Like how he was against him playing and all that kind of stuff." So it was wee things like that. I just thought it was kind of, I did really enjoy it, and I think there was just that many wee bits that linked to the film that didn't hit the spot for me.
Fair play.
I think obviously 99% of people that watch this wouldn't give a fuck about most of what we're saying there. So I mean, like,
We're at 1% this 5 year.
You've just described our whole thing.
Aye, but no, we are all really into sport, right? And but we're also really geeky about it. So we really like to look at the sort of in-depth aspects of this, and I think that's why maybe we loved it the first time we watched it. So it was interesting for us. But I think most people believe it, and that makes it hard for me to think why it was nominated for the Oscars. So other people that are not into sport must watch this and think there's something really amazing about it, and instead we care maybe too much about the other aspect of it.
Yeah, about the actual details. So that's probably due to the performances, and hence why you've got nominations for Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt and stuff in there that is going to make a big effect on it. But guys, we've nearly spoke about this one for half an hour now, so let's jump on and start scoring it. But let's start off with Instagram. Again, guys, if you haven't already followed our Instagram, we are thoroughly on the road to 1,000 followers. So we've got 18 of you sitting here at the moment enjoying us rather than Love Island. So if you haven't already followed us on Instagram, please do so. What did Instagram think of this movie then, Daniel?
So it scored high. The thing is, I think people are going to be disappointed with the score we give at the end of this. I got a 4.5 overall, very well thought of. I got a couple of messages sent in as well. One person saying both movies this week were in his top 5 ever movies. So this one and The Fighter that we've got coming up. So yeah, I ended up with 4.5 on average from Instagram.
4.5 strongly, and also on IMDb it does have a 7.6 out of 10, which is really high up there for a sports movie. But let's give it our own scores. Burnsy, you can kick us off as a resident sport expert.
I think I based all the comments that I gave. I kind of berated it a wee bit, but I did actually enjoy it. I think it was more just after a second watch that it wasn't as enjoyable as the first watch. I think the first watch I would probably give like a 4.5, but I'm going to lower that down to 3.25.
A 3.25, and Burnsy, just because everyone's eager to know, is it better than No Country for Old Men?
By far.
There's one thing guaranteed to piss Daniel off every week. So a 3.25 coming in from Mr. Sport. Hunter.
A 3.5 for me. Again, probably similar to Buns. It would have been in the 4+ region based on first watch, but 3.5 for me. It's similar. I felt like I did with Saga, but there is a lot of good in amongst
3.5
as well.
Coming in from Hunter. Daniel.
I'm giving this a bang average 3. Even in my first watch, compared to the other stuff we've watched, I wouldn't give any more than that. So I tried to take off the fact that I've watched it twice and I still give it a 3.
So a 3 from Daniel, putting it out there and saying that Nicolas Cage's Con Air is better than this. Sean.
Oh, wait. Are you trying to say you didn't have more enjoyable time watching Con Air
listen,
than you did this?
That's it. Sean, we'll just swiftly move on to you.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I actually just had to go and search on WhatsApp for what I gave No Country for Old Men, and I gave that a 5, and I'm 0.5. I just really enjoyed it. I don't know why. I just really liked it. And one day when we come back to review this again, or if we ever do, it probably will change. But for the new, and I only finished watching it about like 3 years ago, or whatever. So I'm going to get stuck with my 4.5.
A really confident and fantastic 4.5 from Sean. Yeah, I'm going to score it fairly highly as well. For me, it comes in around about the 3.75. We've seen better movies than it, but I do enjoy it. I have seen it, I'm going to say between 5 and 8 times or something that I've seen this. I do still enjoy it. I do like it. Very good movie for me. Go on then, give us the overall scores for it, Burnsy, if you've got your calculator out.
Alright. Yeah, so that's 3.
Sorry,
That's
just
fair.
say that again. I think I lost you there.
3.6.
A 3.6 for Moneyball. So a 3.6 puts that in between Uncut Gems and Birdman/Milk.
I think that's probably bang on with those.
Hang on.
Well, at least it put it higher than Hot Fuzz. That's what I'm happy about.
What kind of human being has watched this film 8 times?
Honestly, I've
I've
watched it loads. It's one of those ones that pops up on my Netflix. It's like, would you like to watch again? I'm like, yep. I'm playing Football Manager. I've went Brentford, put Moneyball on. It all makes sense.
There's literally
Kyle and Thomas Frank keeping the Moneyball in the Netflix algorithms.
there's probably 2 or 3 films that I could watch that many times, and that's even at a push. Like, I couldn't.
I couldn't watch any film that amount of times, no matter how good it was.
I reckon, just on the subject, I reckon I've watched the movie Warrior no less than 40 times, at least.
Aye, me if we'd watched White Men Can't Jump, I fell in love with that film in the 90s. I've probably watched that 100 times.
Listen,
if
if you want to hear the most ridiculous one, Sarah made me go to see the film The Legend of Tarzan at the cinema 2 days in a row. Why?
No, I'll never go back to the cinema to see a film. Like, never. It's just.
I thought it was okay.
Have you? No, I couldn't.
Aye.
me and Neely went to see Goldmember twice, though, but we just spoiled the jokes for everyone the second time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I can fully picture that as well. But guys, let's move on to the next one then, which was The Fighter. So The Fighter came out in 2010, starring Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. The movie is based on the story of Mickey Ward, a fledgling boxer who tries to escape the shadow of his more famous but troubled older boxing brother and get his own shot at greatness. But I'm going to jump straight in and throw this out to Hunter. Hunter, jump away and give us your thoughts.
This I think was the second time I'd watched this as well, and I think because of the gap between when I first watched it and this, I get really there was no dread in watching it again. I think there maybe was with Moneyball, because I watched Ep4 within the last year, but I really enjoyed this. It's probably one of the better boxing films that's came out in recent years. I mean, nothing's going to beat a Raging Bull, but I think Mark Wahlberg's class in it, and Christian Bale it seems like I've got that wee clip of the main characters in real life at the end. Christian Bale has got the brother doing an absolute T. Just the mannerisms, the voice, just everything. It's faultless throughout the movie for me. Again, they just seem this sort of stereotypical New England family where there's like 25 sisters and cousins and everyone's all kind of all within the same house, all this madness going on. And when Matt Wahlberg's character, like Mickey Ward, he's just like totally appears to be sort of normal one throughout, and again he's getting sort of pulled to collect close by his mother and his old manager, and he's getting the wrong end of the stick, and then he comes back and again you're cheering from through it. Again, like, good watch. I would recommend it to anyone, so again I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, really good thoughts, guys. Just before we move on there, I just want to say a thanks for following to Red Urage. If I've pronounced that wrong, just let me know. But welcome into the Moron Club. Guys, for me, and this is another one of these films that I've watched multiple times and I really, really enjoy it. I think Christian Bale is ridiculously good in this movie. Like, he's so good as Dickie. He's like the most unlikable but likable guy. I don't know how else to explain him, because he's the biggest waste of space and waste of talent going.
Yeah.
And you should hate him, but you're rooting for him. Like, the fact that you go through this whole film, and there's a whole storyline with Mickey, but in Dickie's head, he's making a documentary about himself. He's got no concept that this is not to do about him, and he's making a documentary about his comeback, and he's going to have this big fight, when in actual fact it's all about him being a junkie. But it's like more like a backline story that Mickey's like going through this push as a fighter, and actually becoming relatively successful. But it's really good how it just amalgamates both together. But I think honestly Christian Bale overshadows Wahlberg in this massively. And the range that he's got as an actor, it's massive, and the storyline's like dead uplifting. It's actually quite interesting to read about what the storyline was anyway when it happened in real life. And when I was looking at some of the trivia on there, I was looking at a bit, for instance, how Mark Wahlberg took no salary for this. He took no fees for the movie as well, and Christian Bale took only $250,000 for him to do this role. It's obviously something that they were both really invested in. But I'll have to find it in a minute. But their mum, I was actually talking to Sarah about this the other day, about how in loads of like scenarios in movies and TV shows where it typically ends up being the mum that's like the main villain. So like when you watch things like The Sopranos, and the mum's a villain towards Tony Soprano, and then we watch Sons of Anarchy, and the mum's definitely the villain in there. She's a villain in this movie. Like, she's the bad guy. She's the absolute selfish arsehole right the way throughout the whole movie, and you can't help but hate her and have no sympathy for her whatsoever as it goes on. But she's absolutely superb. I think it's Melissa Leal who plays her, and I don't know, she's very, very unique is probably how I would suggest what she is. But let's pass it on to Burnsy to give us some of his thoughts.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. It's like, just when you were touching on the mum in the film, it's like, she obviously, throughout the film, I don't think she realises it, but you can tell, like, that obviously Dickie's like a favourite son by far throughout it.
He's definitely the pauser in this situation.
Sorry?
He's definitely the pauser in this situation.
Well, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to pick myself up too much, so I thought somebody else would jump in and say that. Whereas, I really thought Christian Bale was really good in it, but I didn't really think that Mark Wahlberg, I didn't think was that great as Mickey. I thought Dick was definitely the star, like you touched on before. the bits I didn't, I think this again similar to Moneyball, is because it's a sports movie, I'm looking too in depth in it. But see the boxing segments actually in the ring, I kind of just didn't like them because there was just so much wrong with them. Like if I was watching boxing ever, I'd be like, that was really good. But because obviously I've watched it and thinking this is meant to be a proper boxing match, and you're kind of like, well, that looks stupid. Like in terms of the content with them. So that made me like I was more into the build up to the fights, the bits with Mickey's family and obviously his girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. And although the storyline was meant to be based on Mickey, I think it worked well in terms of how you had obviously Dickie's fight with the cocaine addict and the documentary that was right at. I think if it just concentrated on Mickey and his like desire to be a really good boxer, I don't think that would have made the film as good as it was and as much as I enjoyed it. But the bit at the end as well, when after you're saying about how Dickie throughout the film is this like guy who he is like a lovable rogue, but the fact that he managed to get everyone back together for that final fight as well, I thought that was really good because that just made you like him even more, even though he's got obviously all these demons. As he is a nice guy under that all, he's obviously just got issues that it did seem towards the end he was getting a hold of, because he obviously came out of prison and you never saw him getting back on the cocaine or that as well, so it suggested that he's turning his life around too. So I thought it was quite good.
Good. I mean, it's quite interesting the fact that obviously you're not one that's had watched much movies, and you're more interested in the film aspect over the sport when it came to this movie. It's definitely quite an interesting one. I was just thinking here, is obviously inspired by the HBO documentary High on Crack Street, The Lost Lives in Low, which I've never seen actually, so I've just taken a wee note to remember to go and watch that at some point, because I think that would be quite interesting to see what that was being filmed at that time. Just looking at some of the trivia here before I jump to the rest of the guys in here, because one's just caught my eye that I thought was dead interesting. There was one person approached about taking the role of Dickie before it went to Christian Bale, and it was Eminem. And Eminem knocked it back to concentrate on his music, but I just think
wow.
that would have been a hugely different movie if Eminem had picked
definitely.
it up.
If you take this movie, it's shaped all the way. Like, the place can be aware, man. This is a fucking horrible movie.
Well, for us, thankfully,
it's a DVD job. That
they follow through on that as well. And do you remember the scene where they rush out the restaurant because one of they're getting beat up by the cop?
Oh yeah.
So it says, the young man who rushes into the restaurant to warn the Eklund Ward family that Dickie's been beat up is actually Sean Eklund, who was the nephew of Mickey and Dickie, and he became a New England lightweight boxing champion. So they did have a lot of their actual people on the set, because Mickey Ward was on the set every day. Dickie, I don't know if Dickie was in, I've not read any of that bit there, but they had people involved, so it was getting it as authentic as I suppose they possibly could. But Daniel, let's come in and get more of your thoughts on there, thinking of Eminem being in the role.
I'll ignore that one, but I fucking love this. I saw it when it first came out. I went to cinema to see this. It blew me away at that point. And Christian Bale it's all about him for me. Like, this movie is just me being in awe of Christian Bale. He's unbelievable in this. Like, everything about the character, it's all the things you say, right? I think it takes like an amazing talent to put someone on screen that you love and hate at the same time, that can do all those horrible things, and you still sort of you want them to succeed, and you can laugh at him, and you should hate him. You should really hate him, like we've mentioned already. But no, I think he's amazing at it. I'm glad other people mentioned it. Like, I think Mark Wahlberg brings this down a little bit. Can you imagine if this was Matt Damon instead of Mark Wahlberg, how much better this would be?
I
know
get
that sounds
it.
silly, right?
Yeah,
I think,
he's just a
I
bit
think
dour
this-
through it, isn't he?
I think this would have been perfect for Matt Damon. Do you know what else would be perfect for Matt Damon? Every single other Mark Wahlberg movie, because he's just yeah. But I think the rest of the supporting cast is amazing. Like Mark Wahlberg's girlfriend, what's her name again?
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams, she's amazing. All this, see the Seven Sisters, or just like with a dark hair, or just barking all the time. They're amazing.
Yeah, it's like a proper. Sean, are you missing another monstrous game of football here?
Me, unbelievable.
Oh, it's some game, by the way.
Guys,
Jesus Christ.
I like how Hunter's just basically pretending he's leaving listening as some game now.
Hunter's got his thoughts prepared. But no, I love this film. I know Burns mentioned the actual like scenes and stuff like that, but they're secondary to me. I think you could have even just cut them out the film and it wouldn't have mattered.
I would have preferred though, back for interrupt you, but if it was somebody that wasn't into sport, or it was or even just somebody that wasn't into boxing, I think they would have really liked it. But I think it's just because I quite like watching boxing. I'm kind of like, I'm too narrow-minded to just take it for what it is. I'm thinking that looks stupid. Nah, that doesn't look right. Whereas if I just switched off for that, I wouldn't be saying that.
Fuck.
So I kind of.
You must have hated
it's just one of
Rocky.
those things. Like, I was going to say, if you watch Rocky 4, like, if you were to do that movie accidentally, the fact that it's Sylvester Stallone walking in, and then the fight getting stopped after 45 seconds, and then that's it. Fuck, which means he gets the leather. So I think for entertainment value, I don't mind that they just try and make it as fun. Because obviously we know that a fighter can't actually just go like this and get punched in the face for 8 rounds and then come out and go body, head and get him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like that.
It was for me, it was just they look stupid, but I get that bit. It was just that bit was actually funny, like you say.
Just taking all the punishment. But no, I'd forgot. It's been a long time since I've watched it, right? And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel watching it again, because I had forgotten a lot of it. But it blew me away again. I think this is amazing.
Happy
So
days.
I'll pass all this smile.
Just before we jump onto someone else, I just want to say our thanks to Yus Kusayaba. I don't know how you're going to pronounce that, but thank you for your follow as well. Just looking at the names of the sisters, because again, they are brilliant, right? And it's like that stereotypical big hair that you get from like that American Italian style family. It's in their very Sopranos like as well. But some of the names, I was pissing myself reading them here. So you've got Little Alice, seems fine. You've got Donna, which is fine. But then you've got Pork, Tar, Red Dog, and Beaver. It's
Alright.
how they're credited.
That sounds like a group chat.
Just nobody's got their own name as well. Who wants to take up some more thoughts on The Fighter?
I've not given mine yet, so I'll go. I didn't really particularly like I'm not a fan of boxing films, and you've already touched on it. It's just I can't get away from the fight scenes just being totally nonsense. And in this one, this is probably one of the worst ones I've seen in terms of the actual the way they choreograph the actual fight scenes is absolutely terrible. Like the bit where he knocks the boy out with the body shot, like you can see the boy just stand there with his arm down and he's just waiting on it. Like it's just really poor, and it just takes away for the whole film for me. As you've already kind of said, Christian Bale's absolutely brilliant. Mark Wahlberg just seems to play the same character in 90% of his films. He's got no range whatsoever. He's just very meh. Like you could have put anybody in that position, and I don't think it would have made anything. It would have made a blind bit of difference, to be honest. And I don't really mind Mark Wahlberg, but I just thought he was really poor.
His name Matt Damon. So
No, he's just. It's the same. It's the same facial expressions every film. It's the same tone. It's just everything's the same with him in every single film. I feel anyway. I think he's better suited to a more kind of comedy type film than he is like serious drama. I think he's better in like fucking, I don't know, Ted than he was in this. I thought he was absolutely rotten. But as you say, Christian Bale was obviously for me was the saviour. I did enjoy it, but I can't take boxing films seriously when the fight scenes are that poorly done. And I know it's hard to have realistic fight scenes because they're just boring basically. Like, you know what you see pure technical boxing to two actors and all that, but I just thought it was really poor. But the actual kind of overall story was like, I said, I'm more interested in the story and stuff, merely just because he's brother Dickie, but it's not as good as what I thought it was going to be for me. And I think I just focused too much on the negatives with this than I do with the positives. It's probably my own fault.
One thing I would say is, right, this isn't a boxing film.
No, I know.
It's not a film that happens to be about boxers. It's like...
Aye.
I mean...
I would class it as a boxing film because it's about a boxer. It's about the life of a boxer.
It's about the life
But
of
the
a boxer.
boxing's just like a very small subplot in amongst this movie. There's that much else going on.
The actual boxing is like 5%. Like, it's nothing really.
But the actual main story is about him on a journey to obviously get out of this losing run. He goes to Vegas, and then he goes on a bit of a run, and he goes and obviously gets the world.
I don't even see it being about that. I just see it as being about a family falling apart and then coming back together again. Like, I don't even see it as being about him going to Vegas. That's just like side chat to me. Like, in this movie. It's about like to me, it's about addiction. It's about like how family gets destroyed. It's about poverty. It's about all these different things. And there happens to be a bit of boxing in the background. But the fact that he was like had lost a couple of fights and then because I mean they don't show you the Gatti fight, and when he wins it, like he wins the title, you don't even know what title he's going for and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's an amazing fight, by the way. It's a great fight. The Gatti Ward fight.
Well, interesting you say that because since 2013 they've been in talks about a sequel which is going to be around the Gatti trilogy, and that's so that's going to happen at some point. It's been in talks since 2013, but for some reason it's not completely off the table yet. But the second film's going to be about the trilogy of fights with Gatti. That's what they. But again, how many of these? Obviously, it's based on true events, based on Mickey Ward. How many times do you see these type of films getting a sequel? It's quite. I can't really think of any. I was thinking about
Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Rocky Balboa, Creed 2.
Based on like true events.
Well, listen, Rocky's just been popped into the chat there. Higster 1888's popped in there that he likes his burgers. I think he's talking about Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if Mark Wahlberg does actual burgers or he's talking about his nipples. So, you know, one of them.
No, he's got a burger chain.
Has he got a burger chain? I was between. Is he talking about his tits or is he talking about his burgers? And we've had a Rocky and an Adrian put in there. But Rocky's like the ultimate film of this type of thing, although it's not based on any kind of true story, but it is obviously awesome. Again, going back to this, this is a good film, a really, really good film. One I've watched multiple times as well, and definitely recommend to people to watch. Christian Bale and Melissa Leo, I can never pronounce that. They were both nominated for Oscars as part of Best Supporting Roles for actor and actresses. Which is, I think it was the first time since like the 70s where the two supporting people had been nominated for Oscars in the same movie. They're definitely far in front of not Matt Damon. I think I'm just looking here and just see who they lost out in their supporting role. Christian Bale and Melissa Leo were winners.
They both won. They both won.
They both won. Not. It's just because we're not used to saying nominated for them. But they both won it on there as well, which is definitely they're the two stars of it. I would definitely like to say, Hunter. Do you have anything else you want to add on to this?
No. I think all bases have been covered there. I mean, as I said, for regards to a boxing film, it's actual boxing quality. We're not going to get that with watching an actual boxing match. You can't stage it. You're better lightly touching on the subject, or just no. This attempt at it, it's just. I mean, when was the last time it was probably done good? Probably. Maybe Rocky because it looked good at the time then, but anything in recent years, even when they chuck in actual real boxers, like with the Creed films, where they've got David Hay as their opponent, it's just, because he's going up against a non-boxer, it shouldn't be there. Just dance around the subject a wee bit. Actually try to stage fights. Nobody's in for choreographed boxing.
Well, I'm just looking down.
Just watch the Jake Paul fight if you want to see choreographed boxing.
Oh Jesus, fuck, didn't he? Listen, he's a true fighter. Just looking at some of the factual errors that go on at things. We've touched a lot about what happens in the boxing matches, because in real life, Mickey Ward was never knocked down during the fight with Shane Erie. In real life, Alice Ward was not present at Mickey's fight either, so she wasn't even there. There's some advice on how to smoke crack properly, because Dickie's doing it wrong in the movies, which I'll not share. Well, they've also got here as well that they got the weights wrong in the actual films as well. They got the weights in the categories that they would be in wrong. Which you're thinking, how can you get?
There's no mention like it's a heavyweight fight or something.
No, they never mention heavyweight.
No,
but he gets angry that Mickey Ward. So Mickey Ward, when he has to fight the guy at the last second, he's he's a middleweight. So Mickey Ward must be below middleweight.
He was about 163 pounds or something. It was he weighed in it, if I can remember rightly. Whatever that is, does that mean? I can't really.
Because the other boy was about 180, the boy that came out of prison.
He had about 25 pounds or almost something like that, they said in the film, I'm sure.
Well, they've also got here that Mickey and Charlene are shown meeting before his fight with Mike Mungan, which occurred in 1988, but in real life, Mickey had never met Charlene until 2000. So they were just 12 years out with that there. And the now famous "Come on, let's fight" quote said by Mickey Ward's was said during Mickey Ward's first fight with Gatti, not Shane Erie. So they've shoehorned some stuff into the wrong places to make it fit the storyline, which is obviously very common when it comes to.
So these documentaries are not selling out, making $5 million box office. So I mean, they need to have creative license to make it a film.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fair. Just on the nomination side of it, there was also nominated for other things. So it was nominated for Best Motion Picture of the Year, and it lost out to The King's Speech. Amy Adams was nominated for Best Actress in a Supporting Role, obviously lost out to Melissa Leal. Also things like Directing, Film Editing, and Best Writing as well. So it's obviously a really, really well sought after movie. It's performed really, really well as well, and I want to see what the lads are going to start scoring this. IMDb gave it, before I go on to Instagram, I've clicked on the wrong thing twice. Live recordings, everybody. A 7.8 out of 10, so I actually scored higher than Moneyball on IMDb. But let's change it up a little bit and we'll jump straight into Sean to give it. In fact, sorry, before we do that, we will jump onto Instagram. Daniel, talk us.
So this actually, everyone that scored this on Instagram gave it a 5.
Oof.
So this got a 5.
A full-on masterpiece for the Instagrammers.
We're not going to match that, I don't think, but
we need to start pulling these people from Instagram on live so we can grill them on these scores. Sean, take us away with your thoughts and scores.
I wasn't really too sure what to give this. I watched this film first, obviously, the other day. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I'm just not a fan of, and I know we've had a discussion about it's not really a boxing film, but I'm just not a fan of boxing films in general. I think that if it wasn't for Christian Bale, as he's already said, this would have been very average. So I'm just going to give it a 3.5.
A 3.5 coming in from Sean. Hunter.
I am going for a 4. As I said, the boxing is just a small subplot, and I think they should have just touched on the subject rather than trying to reenact these fights and taking away some of the credibility from the film. But as I said, there's some outstanding performances throughout this film. Obviously, most notable Christian Bale was absolutely faultless in this for me, so 4 for me.
4 from Hunter. Daniel?
I'm really glad that I don't look into the pernicketiness of this. Like, can you imagine watching like a Bruce Lee movie going, that's not how Kung Fu's actually done, like how shite your life would be. So, I'm going to ignore all of that stuff, and I'm giving it a 4.25. It would have got a 4.5 if Matt Damon was in it instead of Mark Wahlberg.
So not Matt Damon bringing the score down for you. Burnsy.
Not Matt Damon, but
Let's go from someone who doesn't look at the pernicketus to our resident pernickety person, Burnsy.
I'm going to give it a 3.75, and it's mainly just it would have got higher if I enjoyed the boxing scenes more. Basically, that was the only bits I didn't like. The rest, it was really enjoyable.
A 3.75 from Burnsy. I'm going to throw it straight in at a 4. I enjoy it. Yeah, it's got some faults in it. I think I'm only giving it a 4 because I've seen better movies, to be honest, than what we've scored. I'm not really fussed about the boxing. That's the kind of point in the movies where I stop watching anyway. Like I'll look away for a minute when he's doing the boxing, but I'm more interested in the storyline. But I wasn't put off by it, so a nice solid 4 coming in from me. I've gave you enough time with the calculator there, Burnsy. You've made your 2 or 3 mistakes. Now, what is the score for this?
I double checked it because I thought I had made a mistake there. So it's 3.9.
A 3.9, which of course, out of our 2 movies for this week, makes it the superior one. This actually moves the movie to a 7th place, just behind No Country for Old Men, Burnsy. So, if you just marked your score up a little bit, you could have got it up over No Country for Old Men.
I should have followed Instagram and gave it a 5, so I would have got it above it.
To be fair,
I mean,
I would rather watch The Fighter than No Country for Old Men. I'm with you on that one.
What?
No, they just shot. They don't understand.
We need to start a breakaway movie club with statements like that.
Go have your Coen brother group chat. So yeah, it comes in above The Trial of a Chicago 7, but below No Country for Old Men. I think it should be a wee step above. It should be in between Fight Club and No Country for Old Men. That would be the next level for it. If Matt Damon...
Kyle, what did you give No Country for Old Men? 4 stars or so?
I think it was peer pressure, didn't it? Sorry, I give The Fighter a 6. I give The Fighter...
It's only because it Bundy that it's doing where it is. It should be top 3.
It's only because of Kellis' highest, it should be far lower.
Nah, me and Sean get likes.
Oh, he's weirdos, absolute weirdos. But yeah, so guys, in terms of the leaderboard, we have 2 very strong movies. One coming in at 11th place with Moneyball at 3.6, and one coming in 7th place, which is The Fighter at 3.9. Obviously, there are 2 movies that we would highly recommend to watch at any point. Thanks for those that are listening, and hopefully you do watch it and give us some thoughts and opinions at some point on the movie. Like I said, Rocky's been put into the chat, so I'm sure we've all of us apart from Burnsy's probably already seen Rocky, but I'd definitely give Rocky a watch as well. So that concludes us on Sports Week. I quite enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed those 2 movies this week, to be honest. It was quite good knowing that I knew I liked them, so I was quite happy. But let's jump on and talk about next week. So I'm going to put next week's movies up on the screen right now. You will be able to see them at home. The boys obviously know what they are because they have been on our Instagram. Now, the movies from the Wheel Spin came down to cop movies, but I'm going to let Daniel give you his one-sided interpretation of what happened with the voting and what was on the voting list, because I feel like he's got a bit of a rant and needs to get off his chest for this one.
No. How many votes should one person be allowed? Just as a general consent to the group, guys, how many votes should each person be allowed in any vote?
Many as one.
One.
Listen, I'm definitely on there. 1 vote per account is absolutely spot on.
So it wasn't just the 1 vote per account, it was also then posting it on your own Instagram, get other folk to go and vote for the one you want.
Campaign.
So guys,
Yeah.
give you a bit. I was campaigning hard for a certain movie. Sorry, Expananpex. Thank you for following us. Welcome in. I can't even actually remember who was the absolutely Oscar winner worthy movie Police Academy up against.
I can't remember.
Naked
The
Gun.
Naked Gun 2.5.
Oh, listen.
Listen.
I've done us all
Kyle,
a favour.
Kyle, don't fucking act like you don't know exactly what it was up against, you wanker. You know exactly what it was up against.
I've done everybody a favour, and I made sure.
Just made it on.
I made sure that the Naked
Aye.
Gun was popped out of the voting on there. I campaigned hard for Police Academy, but then Daniel stitched it up and put Police Academy up against Point Break, which I wasn't too disappointed with because I've not seen Point Break and I have been desperate to see it. But I would have much rather had Police Academy for this week than The Departed, that's for fucking sure.
My goodness.
I'm looking forward to our debate next week, Mr. Kyle.
Well,
Aye.
we will leave that till next week, but Point Break and The Departed are the two movies. The theme was cop movies, and these were the two winners selected by you guys on Instagram. The discussion's already hit up a little bit about how it's going to be for next week, so I think next Monday could be a tasty one to say the least. What we should do though, guys, whilst we've got us here, is just jump on and spin the wheel so we can get the categories sought out for next week. So let me just change the screen for that over, and voila, we have the wheel spin on there. Just a quick refresher about what is on there for choices. So we've got 80s comedy and action, 90s comedy and action, war movies, romance, foreign language, coming of age, sci-fi, horror, thriller, fantasy, animated, and British. If there's anything you want added, please pop into the chat. We will pick that up and add that on at some point as well. But the wheel is currently spinning. And as we go round, and we are going to stop on a very wide range category of thriller. So we are going to have to find thriller movies, not Michael Jackson, actual thrillers. Taking these from Disney, Netflix and Amazon Prime, obviously. We will get those narrowed down to a top 16. We'll get those top 16 put out onto Instagram, which will be, Daniel will manipulate the voting and put them against each other like he does most weeks to try and get it to fit his agenda. But guys, best thing to do is just vote for what I say. That'll be the easiest way to do it. Yeah? Does that sound good? Just silence and fingers. Is it one each still? Is that what you're saying, Daniel? One each here.
Aye, one each.
But guys, that brings it to an end of our stream. So thank you very much to the 19 of you that have been hanging around here for the last hour and 10 minutes. Moneyball and The Fighter done. Sport Week finished. Next week you've got Cops, so we're going to be getting The Departed followed by Point Break. And there was a third film you wanted to sneak in, Daniel. What was that third film, if we have the time?
I don't know whether we decide the third film would be LA Confidential or Naked Gun.
I thought it was
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
I'm joking, I just wanted to get Naked. No, There Will Be Blood has just been added onto Netflix. But I was going to suggest adding onto the wheel of Daniel Day-Lewis week, because we've already done Gangs in New York, so we could add that in. We could watch There Will Be Blood and then watch another Daniel Day-Lewis, and we could all just wank over Daniel Day-Lewis for the week.
So we'll do that. We'll add Daniel Day-Lewis onto the list for the wheel spins. And listen, I'm not totally against seeing Naked Gun. When we come round to revisiting movies like Zulu Dawn and Mega Shark vs Colossus, I think that's an appropriate place to add in Naked Gun, and we can talk about shit movies for the week. But guys,
These
before
would not be fine comments if you'd actually seen it.
well, I think before Daniel flips his lid, it's time for us to end the chat there just now. I'm just going to put you onto the stream is ending, and we will send you across to another Twitch streamer. Please jump into the streams, say hi, give them a follow, and yeah, thank you very much for being here. We will see you next week. Bye.
See you next.